I'm Brian Gannon. This is a quick overview of my journey into AI. I like being in the study. It feels like so conversational. So this is a cool room to present in. Yeah, and you may be confused on the sign because my friend Mike Wilkes was originally going to give a similar in nature talk. I was saying earlier, the one main difference is that we're not the same person. So the talk will be slightly different than it would have been otherwise. Big thanks to our sponsors who made this happen. Here's my intro slide. I am the owner and founder of MindSing. We're a Drupal creative agency. We do web systems technology primarily, anything web related with a focus on Drupal. So a little bit about me. I'm a full stack developer. I like to work with tech. I've become an AI enthusiast, not necessarily that I thought I was going to, but now I use it constantly. I've been working in open source and web development for over 15 years. I do a lot of digital strategy and development. So I'm also with Modern Woodmen of America, one of our gold sponsors, financial representative over there. So I'm trying to figure out how to bridge technology and finance. I got my MBA from Georgia Tech in 2010, and before that I did my Bachelor of Fine Arts at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, BC. So I like to incorporate art, design, and business process into everything I do. I like speaking at events like this. Okay, so the way I kind of got started in AI was through the Brave browser. So how many people here are familiar with the Brave browser? Everybody? Okay. It's a Chromium browser that's not Google, so that was like a big win for me. So I just started using that because it seemed better. I don't necessarily want to give all my browsing data just to Google. And I like their business model. Brendan Eich, I think, is one of the founders of Brave browser, and I was like, well, he did a pretty good job with JavaScript. Let's see what he's doing over there. And then so inside of it is Leo, the AI assistant. And so I started noticing like AI in 2023 coming into all my searches. And they've done a really good job. It does put it on top. It just feels like less corporate sponsorship than Google. Throughout my slides, I'll just have like these interludes with these pictures, which is like live demo time, because you've got to keep everything really interesting, right? So here it's like, how can AI help me? And it should hopefully give me a demo, or yeah, it's working, yeah. So, and up at the top, this is the Leo AI, right? And it's like a quick overview. I found that the Leo AI is pretty good. I think part of it is because it doesn't necessarily have this business model like Google and Microsoft Edge to deliver their sponsors' material like as the primary focus. And you can ask follow-up questions like in this little dialog box. And then, this is more like what you could be used to with ChatGPT if you're using it. And it is kind of nice because it gives you a quick overview of your search directly in the browser without necessarily having to think too much about it or like start parsing through sources. So that's really how I got started with AI. I was like, oh, okay, well, already using it over there. So then I was doing my development work, a lot of front-end debugging with the inspector, and then some of the folks I'm working with are telling me to use Copilot to help me figure out some of the problems I'm having. And I was like, well, how do I use Copilot? And well, it's just built into the Microsoft Edge browser. I'm like, really? So then I started using the Edge browser, and it's a Chromium browser as well. And very similar to what I just showed with Brave, the Edge Copilot will kind of analyze the page that you're on and scour the internet and give you feedback there kind of in real time. So it can help with some of the debugging. And then it's the same engine that we'll talk more about later the Copilot engine that we'll see in VS Code. I mean, it's all Microsoft, so it's the same thing all over the place. And then the Edge browser is good for beginners because like you just download the browser and then it's already in there, so you can start using AI to help you in that way. So this one over here. So I'll just go to my website to try and start figuring stuff out. So like I was noticing a problem, or just something I didn't like, I should probably say. Like it's too wide here. So it's like, what if, like, how can I make this less wide? And it's this little icon over here. This is the thing that was probably the hardest for me, is to find that icon. And then that is the actual AI helper, and then I guess you can open it in a new window, but that doesn't seem as useful. So I like to keep it in the sidebar because it's like I want to figure out over here, like, how do I make this less wide? It'll probably give me a not so great answer. Zoom out. I could resize the browser window, or I could use it in reader mode. Okay, and then it actually starts to give me some information. If I'm a developer, I could add a container class. So I don't think I have a container class in there. So, okay, but it doesn't even tell me to do that. And then it gives me a max width rule. You know, this quickly gets to kind of the dangers of AI. That is a really bad suggestion. It would probably work, but you'd have to know to add the container class. And this is already using a utility CSS framework, and it's like, can't you just tell that by looking at it and figure out what it is? I could probably prompt it. And then it's like, so you just kind of gotta like preload all of your assumptions into its working model, and then it will eventually kind of get there. Okay, it did figure out that it's using well, no, it tells me how to figure it out on my own, actually. But this is using a utility framework called Tachyons. So it would be a bit of work to actually get it to recognize what's going on. So it is really helpful to actually know what's going on and don't just assume the computer can do it for you. Okay, and then of course there's ChatGPT. That's like the big one that most of us are probably familiar with. And it became popular like a year or two ago. It's kind of crazy just how new it really is. Like, I don't think we were talking about ChatGPT 3 years ago. So I kind of consider it like, I don't know if people use this SMS service in the 90s where you would like ask any question, and I think there's like a human on the other end, and it would like give you answers. This is on my flip phone. But anyways, there was this fun service that you could like text any question, and then somebody would like give you an answer. And it kind of feels like that. So I was starting to use ChatGPT for all these things, and then my brother, who's a professor in South America, you know, he was really mad at ChatGPT because everybody was cheating with it. You know, he's teaching English as a second language, and you know, people who are just learning language, he'd kind of understand their language skills, and then they would come back with these like perfectly written essays. And he'd be like, you know, there's like no way you can do this without cheating. And like some people would just not admit that they cheated. And he was getting really frustrated, and I was like, well, like you can't stop them from cheating was what I was telling him. I was like, just bring it into the classroom and, you know, teach people how to do prompting. Have the assignment be like, go write this essay 3 times, however you want. You can use the AI tools or not. And I was like, and then have them all bring them in, and then have them write by hand in class like an analysis of what's different between each of the essays they brought in and why. And then it's like, then you'll get real written stuff, and you'll have taught him something in the time. He didn't like the idea, but then he told me like a year later, this is just a few months ago, he's like, oh yeah, I did exactly what you said, and it's great. So now we can take a look at ChatGPT. I think I wasn't going to use this one. I was going to use this. It's because I'm signed into the other browser. So, you know, you don't have to have a subscription or anything. You can just come in here and be like, and just start asking it questions. And it will start responding. What I think is so funny about this, I don't know if people use bulletin board systems in the 90s. Like really showing my age here, but you'd like dial into a terminal, and I would play these like dungeon crawler games, but it was all just like scrolling text exactly like this. And it's just really funny because like, is this what the web has like turned back into? Is like the scrolling bulletin board system? But in a large way, yeah, I think so. Thanks, ChatGPT. And you can have somewhat interesting conversations with ChatGPT, but it's just going to reaffirm whatever you put in there. It's not very good at critical thinking, and that's kind of dangerous, and it's always like hyper assured of itself. So it, you know, like, hey, how does X, Y, or Z work? And it'll be like, this is absolutely the right answer, even when it's wrong. And there's studies out there that show these interfaces tend to be wrong more than half of the time. And I found ChatGPT or any of these models, like there's other models, I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Like I know it's wrong. One thing that happened to me somewhat recently is I was just trying to ask it some rules about cribbage. And, you know, it gave me most of the answers back, but then there's one specific part of the rule set of the game that I was like, I just know that's wrong. And it took like 5 prompts, and then I had to find my own sources, and then it was like, okay, you're right. It's very unrewarding. Because it's so assured of itself, like all the other prompts. Like, no, I'm definitely right. Like, this is how the rules work. I found all these community resources telling me that, you know, this is what ChatGPT is telling me. Like, I've got all these community resources, and my vision's right. And it's like, well, give me a site. I've had this happen with ChatGPT. I'm like, give me a link. Where's this community that you're talking about? And it's like, trust me, bro. That can be really frustrating. Oh, and then there's ChatGPT Canvas. I'm not sure if you can do it on the free version. Let's see. And if not, I'll show the not free version. So you have to be logged in. Okay. So, so there's a canvas that you can open up in ChatGPT, and it's like a collaborative code editor. So you can do this all in the browser like I was showing you. And this can be kind of nice. So this is where I started to like dip my toes into like actually writing code with these tools. So I was using ChatGPT, and then I was like, oh, there's this neat Canvas feature. I had already like, I think, paid for the service. I think the basic payment model is like $100 for the year, or $10 a month. The prices, of course, are just going to keep going up, but you know, I guess that's the lock-in. I started paying for it, and I was like, oh, this is really useful, and now I feel kind of stuck. But I do also feel like it's worthwhile. I feel like I save enough time with the tool set that it's worth my investment. So, and I do use it for writing code, although you'll see later I'm kind of not using this so much. I'm using it directly in VSCode. So I'll show what this looks like on this browser, because I think I'm logged in. Yes, I could be logged in over here. You know, give me boilerplate HTML. I've done this before too, page in. So if you say like use it in Canvas, it should open a canvas for me. That was one of the things I was a little confused about. I was like, how do I like specifically get in the canvas or not? So if I tell it to use Canvas, okay, here's Canvas. It's an actual like kind of like a code editor looking thing, and it's got an edit button. And so I can click edit, and then this is the actual canvas over here. And then we can start to like collaborate on the side. So this is like kind of cool. So like you get the paid version of ChatGPT, and then you can start like automatically writing websites. You know, and I'm like wondering, like, I didn't ask for any JavaScript, so that's kind of weird. But I also didn't ask for a bunch of like style. It's like, okay, so I could like take this and I can save it, and I could even be like, make it as simple as possible, and then I'll start to rewrite it, and it'll, like, that's better. That's more of what I was like thinking. Yeah, sometimes these AI agents love to be like really complicated, and you're like, I really just want to like one more thing. Yeah.
Can Canvas show like live HTML, live preview of it?
So the question is, can it show a live version? Let's see what happens with. Oh, apparently it can. That must be a new feature because I don't think that was there recently. That's the other thing with all these tools; they constantly like evolve underneath your feet, and even if they do a good job of announcing what their changes are, which I don't think they do, it's like so overwhelming how much information we have to deal with every day that at least I certainly wouldn't have noticed or had the time to read their release notes. Like, we all work in Drupal. We know there's like an essay and a half worth of release notes every Wednesday, and it's hard to like actually read it all. Have time to. Oh, warnings. I've already talked a lot about some of these warnings, but I'll go over them again. So all of these tools, all of these AI tools are overly agreeable, like whatever premise you're coming to it with, and it can kind of figure out your tone from what you've written. It'll just agree with you. So that's one thing I like about working with people is they're not just going to automatically agree with you no matter what, most of the time. Depends on the person. So AI, as I've mentioned, is confidently wrong. It does create an echo chamber effect. So, like, if you're looking for something and you think it's a certain way and you ask it, it's like, oh, what a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. And it's so affirming, too. And it's like, here's the answer that you probably think is right. That can be quite annoying. I was reading something on Reddit to try and alleviate that, and I found it works a little bit. If you say, like, obviously, like using the word obviously and then putting in the prompt, then it will kind of like feedback like, well, actually, it might not be so obvious, and give you some counterpoints. I don't know how long that'll keep working. For now, it's kind of cool. And then another thing is experts say, and then you say like the opposite of what it gave you. So like whatever it gives you, you can say, experts have said the opposite of what you just said. And then it will have to actually like reconsider itself and give you some more deep analysis. What were you going to say?
Oh, ChatGPT has some personality settings too. And if you go in and say absolute mode, it reduces a lot of that.
Okay. So for the recording here, ChatGPT has like personality settings. I hadn't ever heard of this absolute mode that will make it like eliminate parts of these pitfalls. It does have really poor source attribution. I've had so many times where it's pretended there are sources available, and then I ask for the actual source, like, give me a link for that, and it can't provide it, so maybe it doesn't have a source at all, and it's just hallucinating. This is a problem I feel like I may be facing, is skill atrophy. So, like, if I write all of my code from now on with the chatbot, like, I feel less confident to be able to just, like 2 years ago, I had to generate all my own code, like, just write it myself. Yeah, sure, there's a lot of copy and paste out of Stack Overflow. I don't even go to Stack Overflow for the most part. It's kind of crazy. Because I just expect the AI agent to do that for me. Yeah.
Just along with that, this may be something new. Like, I like to call it like the slot machine effect, where it's like maybe you're having to do something that's more like an edge, like you're not as good as, like, I don't know, database queries every day, so you write this query, it gets it wrong, but it's like so close, so you're like, do it again, but do it, fix these things, I know not to, what's wrong, and then it does it again, it still doesn't work. Like an hour or two passes, and you're like, you get in this addiction of like, oh, it's like it's doing so well and it's doing it so quickly and it's going to work this time.
Yes.
And then it does, and you're like, I could have just actually looked up how to do this and learned something, and then and so that's a pitfall for me. It's like I will be trying to work with ChatGPT for like 2 or 3 hours. It's like, you know what, this was great, but this is actually not working.
And I've had this problem before too, this slot machine effect where you're like constantly prompting it for an answer and it's not quite getting it, especially on like these complicated edge cases. And I was actually doing this last week and it was the same thing, like not fixing it, not fixing it, not fixing it. And then the next day I go and I think it was like almost the same prompt and like first try I fixed it. And I was like, okay. And that was like kind of an obscure bit of like JavaScript patterning that I have a really hard time fully understanding, so I didn't feel like I could just do it myself. With CSS, it's a little bit easier for me. So I've done the same thing where I was like prompt, prompt, prompt. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can just solve this. And then like 15 minutes later, I'm like, I actually know how to do this because I've done this for like 20 years almost, and maybe I shouldn't just rely on this robot thing. And that's the skill atrophy thing I'm worried about. Yeah.
One of the things that sometimes works in those kind of scenarios, or when you are worried that it's just agreeing with what you're doing, is open another window and paste in the answer that the AI gave you and say, tell me why this is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like take one answer and then open a new context for a new model or just a new incognito window into ChatGPT.
Yeah, I've got really limited AI coding experience, but what I've found is that it's great to save me a lot of typing up front, but once it starts to consistently fail, it's in a gravity hole, and it's time to look over yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll show a little bit about the VSCode Copilot plugin, and so this will actually like read and start manipulating your actual code base, which is kind of nice because then before I was just copy and pasting between interfaces, and this is like directly in the text editor. So I don't remember really what the limitations are because I paid for it a long time ago. This one was like $100 a year. I think it still is, and you purchase it through GitHub.com. At least I'm pretty sure that's where I got my license. So apparently in the free one, there's no chat. It's limited. It's more shallow context awareness. You get much slower updates, and it's just probably not as full-fledged as what I'm about to show. This part is sometimes nice, that it knows about open source stuff. It's not very good with Drupal, unfortunately. Like I get a lot of Drupal 7 answers, or like if I'm using AI Agent where it does it for me, it will rewrite my Drupal 8 stuff with Drupal 7 hooks. And that's just not very useful because it doesn't work. Or it'll just make stuff up that doesn't work. It's better at Twig, because there was no Twig in Drupal 7. It's funny, I've had it like write me boilerplate modules, and then I remember, oh right, there's actually like a drush function that does this. And the drush function is a lot better. So when it comes to like starter boilerplate stuff, like if you can do it in drush, it's a reminder to like do that, and then AI can help you manipulate it after it exists. Because I found when it starts modules for me, it does it poorly, and often it's just completely wrong, and I can't get it to work. Combined with Drupal coding standards, sometimes it will actually do that, but usually it fails there too. Okay, so then VS Code, here we are, and I need some code to work with, so I'll have it generate some, like build a boilerplate Drupal project with DDEV in this directory. So I've already got like the paid version, so I can use Agent. Oh, and down here you can choose which model you're going to use, and there's little numbers that tell you how much they're going to charge you, because you get a certain number of credits each month, and so like for writing code, like, and these are a bunch of models, and you can manage models and add models in here, which is kind of cool. This is really useful to have like so many different like models like right here in a quick little switcher. And since this is like an overview thing, I should also mention like, okay, so this is VS Code. I had VS Code downloaded and installed. You have to go into this little extensions thing, and then you have to look for the Copilot plugin, and the Copilot plugin comes in, and then there's a little button up here that's not very easy to know where it is, but it's up there, and then it will open, and that's how I got all of this to even get to this point. And I think somewhere in here, like under the settings, there was somewhere in here it's their business model, so they made it easy for me to upgrade and pay them money when I got started. Because there's also like settings up here, or chat settings. So there's probably so much in here that I'm not even fully aware of. So anyways, I want to use one of the free models. I'm often, because the models also change, like every month I'm like, oh, there's new numbers in these models. I don't really know what they mean, so I'll usually like take them, I'll even like screenshot them sometimes. You can upload into ChatGPT, and then I'll ask ChatGPT, like, what are these models? And like, which one is which? And why might I use it? And then it's like, gives me like 3 pages, and like no, I need like 3 bullet points of like the information. Because like, I just don't want to read an essay.
What's different about agent mode?
So yeah, down here there's agent, ask, and edit. Agent mode is like fully autonomous. So it should like actually start writing real code in here for me, is my hope, because it's in agent mode. So it says it's going to scaffold the ddev config and helper files, and it's going to create some stuff. And there it goes. It starts creating stuff. It made the ddev directory. It's got a bootstrap script. I haven't seen this before. Okay, so I guess the bootstrap script is going to run all this stuff for me. And then you can like keep or undo it. So one thing that I really highly recommend is understanding Git. Git is like super fundamental for having this work well. I use Git Kraken. Git Kraken is pretty good. So it requires an initial commit. I'd already opened this inside of Git Kraken. And then I can see here, like, okay, it added all this stuff for me. And I can I like reviewing it over here, and then I can add a commit for this. Add initial code. Oh, I have to stage it all, and then I can commit it. Okay, and then I can go back to this, and then I can keep it so that it's like the context there, and then I can say, run the installer bootstrap. And it should ask if it can open an actual window to run it for me. And we'll see how that goes. So it's going to read the bootstrap. I always think it's kind of funny, and it's like, didn't you like literally just write this for me? It's like, well, let me figure out what's going on here. It was like 1 prompt ago. So then it's going to say, okay, this is the thing it's really bad at. It can't read output from the terminal. See, it says the terminal should have no output. This happens to me constantly. So all I do, because it's waiting to like run the thing again. Also, I already had ddev installed. I should mention this. Like, I already had brew installed. So like, you kind of have to have a lot of these prerequisites kind of like already installed. It probably would start to do a lot of that stuff for me, because you can see like, run these commands. Just, it'll give you all these warnings, but I'll reiterate them. Like, it's kind of dangerous to just let it run commands in the terminal if you don't know what it actually means or is doing. So I'll just take what it ran in the output, and then I just paste it back into the chat window, because it's never going to be able to read the output of the terminal. There's like too much of a delay, even though there's obviously like not much of a delay there at all.
Isn't that good that it can't read random things on your computer?
Yeah, that's probably for the best. I'm not like super upset about
And
that.
is it can't or won't?
I think it's that it can't, because it's like constantly like, I tried to read this and there's nothing there. Let's try again. So.
In my experience, though, if I let it run a shell command in the terminal, it can read the output.
Yours can?
Mine can't. So.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a random failure, whatever I have set up. So it's actually doing the ddev thing. So, I didn't pay too much attention to what it's doing, so I hope it's okay. I don't, like, why did you, oh, it wants to list stuff? Anyways, we'll come back to that. Okay, so then my friend was showing me Cursor and Klein. Do people use Klein? So my friend was like, look at this thing, it's super cool. This is before the agent mode of the VS Code that I was showing you existed too, which was like so long ago, 6 months ago. And he's like, just look this stuff up on YouTube. And I looked it up and it's like, it's kind of like this, but it'll like really do even more. So I downloaded it and it's over here. It's Klein, or C-Line. It uses Claude Sonnet. I'm not really going to show it because it's going to do the same stuff I was already doing, but it's even more autonomous. So, like, when Klein opens up, you're like, I want to build an app that does these things, and it'll just start, like, randomly pulling stuff and, like, doing it for you. And there's, like, little breakpoints and checks of, like, are you sure you still want to do it? And then for it to really start working, you really got to start, like, putting money in the meter. So that's why I never got too far with this one, because I was like, I don't know how much money this might end up like taking. I've seen a lot of people talk about spending, say, like $10 an hour on this tool to then go and like run like a lot of development. So it's kind of like you can hire this thing for $10 to $20 an hour to do like what used to be maybe a team's worth of people's work, and it's not advocating for that. I'm just kind of like, that's what's happening. Is that good? Is it bad? I don't know. I don't know if it's good. I wouldn't go that far. And so like this is like what the vibe coding is where you're like, I've got this idea for this app that does this thing, and you go to Klein and you pay for Cursor, and then it just starts doing it for you. And then you can like, you may have heard of these stories where, you know, people build these like financial apps, and then they're like, nobody ever thought to prompt the machine to build security in, and then everybody got hacked, and then, you know, the guy goes to jail because he did financial fraud. So, you know, just building stuff because it's cool, I don't know, you should also be careful. I've kind of already showed some of the autonomous vibe coding. Here it wants to like list stuff. I don't know why it wants to list that stuff. So at this point you can push like the stop button to, you know, like start the server so I can do Drupal. We'll come back in a little bit and we'll see how that's going. So we talked a little bit about some of the boilerplate generation. I've already shown some of that. And then in a little bit, once my Drupal app is up and running, we can maybe debug it a little bit. It is really good for learning unfamiliar tech stacks. So I've started building much more simple websites. Like, so I work for my community council, which is like a nonprofit that advocates for the community, the city of Seattle. And I, of course, built them our original website on Drupal, and then ran out of time to maintain it. So it's not like poorly maintained. It's just on like Drupal like 9.2 or something, and it gets like no traffic, and then people complain that it doesn't work well. And I was like, it works just fine. It just has incredible information. Anyways, the point of this is I've moved into Hugo, which is a static site generator built in Golang that just spits out a static HTML. And it's pretty great because it's open source. And I was using it before AI, but like I don't spend all my time in Hugo, so it's kind of unfamiliar to me. So I can use these AI tools to just like build out this site like super fast. And I could use it for other things. I could start building like React app websites pretty quickly with AI without having to like really learn it super well. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily a great thing. I do actually use it a lot with Google Tag Manager, so a lot of my previous talks here and at DrupalCon were about Google Tag Manager. And so I have this AI stuff augment my knowledge base of like these tags that I bring in. Tag Manager is particularly good for this because it's stuck in like, I think it's whatever the last version of ECMAScript was, that's not the current one. So you can't do like brackets equals greater than for your functions. It doesn't allow for that. It also doesn't allow for like let for a variable or const for a variable at all. It's the var. So it's that old ECMAScript standard. So it's great for that because like I tried to forget that old standard a long time ago. And people just are constantly giving me like, hey, install this script on the website through the Google tag. And I don't know what this is, and ChatGPT will do, at least there's some research being done on it, like, hey, is this a legit company and script, and is this script written right? And it'll pull out some pretty basic errors and fix them. So yeah, I was talking about using VSCode for Hugo. So like my MindSync website, I built in Hugo. And I built it in Hugo like maybe 2 years ago. And then once I got kind of more proficient with this AI agent stuff I was showing you in VS Code, I was like, I want to make my site better. And I was able to use agent mode in VS Code on top of Hugo to like really, really speed up my development process. So like something that would have taken me probably like 2 weeks previously of like, you know, an hour or two a day, I was able to get all of it done in like a 1 hour or 2 hour sitting, like sitting there and just like do this, now that, now, you know, make it look a little bit different here. Like very small little progressive enhancements. Let's see how the, I forgot to tell it could start. So let's see if my Drupal website on DDEV that I asked for is going to work. It also assumes things are going to happen like really fast. It's like, okay, it should be going. And, oh, there it goes. Okay, I've got a URL, and it doesn't work, which I'm not overly surprised about. I don't know why it's not working. Probably not. There's probably nothing in there, right? Ha, look at that. It's not working. Okay. There we go. This is a good like example of like pair coding is still valuable. You know, Andrew's like, well, it didn't download Drupal. It's really obvious when you look at the files. You know, I'm also in the middle of talking about it, so it just wants to start the app again. So it's not very good. But it would have taken me a little while to maybe see that Drupal wasn't downloaded. It's a pretty basic problem there. We'll keep that up and running in a little bit. Oh, so this is something I still constantly use. And I have to remind myself to do it sometimes. Especially if I have an email that's going out to like a lot of people or like AI execs, or not AI execs, corporate executives. Sometimes I'll write my whole email and then I'll just paste it in ChatGPT and like, look, this is the audience, this is the tone. Can you make this more clear and more precise? And sometimes it does a good job. I try to like really scrutinize or reread it, especially if I have it draft it for me initially. I have to prompt it like 4, 5, 6 times to get to something I like, and then even then, you know, I might tweak little pieces of it. The thing I find myself doing the most is like no M dashes. I love M dashes, but it feels like a clear giveaway that a computer wrote it, and so I don't really like that. So I always just like, just remove the M dashes, or I'll go through and I'll replace them with commas or full stops in a capital letter or colons. I use a lot of colons. I don't see like ChatGPT throwing out a lot of like colons. Then the thing. I mean, you can see I wrote this with ChatGPT. There's an M dash right there. So it's pretty good. Although I've seen this like really fail in the wild. We had an angry person in our community send out an angry email to a lot of people, and then, you know, some people would start responding, and then, like, really quickly, like 3 messages into this angry thread, it was like, this is obviously all being generated by a computer. And it started, like, cycling itself even, like the language. It's a real person sending the emails, but you could just tell they were just like, this is the thing I want to say, and then it's this huge long email. It's really like. Okay. Yeah, so you can use it as a writing assistant. Probably don't need to demo that because I think I've shown how a lot of this stuff works. So let's see where I'm at. Well, I could demo it. Let's see. Write me an email to send a thank you message to the Drupal Summit team. This is the free version too. Here we go. It gives me a subject, starter. That's pretty good, you know. And I'll be like, no M dashes. More personal. Thank you for trying it. Oh, it's gonna like paywall me. And that's okay, because I've got my other one over here that I can look at later. Did this download Drupal? No, it did not download Drupal. It's just telling me to dev start over and over. So you do kind of need to know what you're doing, apparently, to like actually get this to work. So we'll see how that goes. Do we have any other questions? Kind of toward the end, yeah.
Thinking of ChatGPT, for example, the fact that it has state is just freaky. Is there a way to manage that, to see what it has in its chat memory, to highlight just certain portions of that to consider, or to clear the cache?
Yeah, so that's a good point, asking about some of this with ChatGPT. So over here in like my sidebar, you can see you can organize things into projects. So, you know, here I have a demo project, and you know, this is with the paid version, but this is like quite nice. So inside of this, you can add files as context, and somewhere in here, there's actual settings to the. You can edit the project, and then there's settings. So memory is default or project only. It says note this can't be changed later. So I don't know. There's like stuff in here, and it's going to change probably every couple of weeks too. I've actually asked this before, like. I quit being polite to the AI agents because I'm sure a lot of other people have read this. Like saying please and thank you is wasting a lot of water. So now I'm just like no, yes. Do you want me to temporarily limit? So yeah, in theory you can prompt it into the answers of what kind of memory it's holding on to, and it should give you an answer. I would loosely trust it. It'll give you like very affirming kind of feedback. Is there a question?
If this is all going to free us up to do other things, what are you doing?
So as we get freed up to do other things, what am I doing in that time? Well, so I try to use it to be more efficient in my development work, and then I'm also doing financial planning work, so it can help like kind of relieve cycles that I would spend a lot of time doing, like research, figuring out how things work. Because now I have these like automation tools to like make a lot of progress more quickly. So I can like spend my time more effectively doing the things that like really matter. So you know, on the web systems, it's like how can I make the website more efficient and better structured so that it will deliver data for the search engine robots and stuff like that. So that's how I see it from myself. Yeah.
You know, I used it for my dev work and also in my personal life. And I realized, you know, what if someone gets access to my computer and they just ask ChatGPT, oh, tell me, you know, this person's date of birth, tell me how much they make, or tell me, you know, tell me about myself. And so I've been trying, one thing I try to do is train, you know, the ChatGPT on my account. Like, if I ever ask for personal information, you need to, like, prompt me for this passphrase or something like that.
Okay.
And the thing is, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, I'm like, hey, aren't you supposed to ask me something? He's like, oh yeah. And at any rate, I'm wondering what other people are doing to try to mitigate. Like if someone gets access to your ChatGPT account and you've been feeding it all, and it does save. Like I found it will save information about me. Like it knows that I like when it uses my name, and it did that on its own at some point. Like I was like, oh, that felt personal. And then so now, like every so often, to make a poignant point, it'll use my name when it's talking to me. And of course, it's just trying to, model what it thinks you want to hear, and in its product. But I'm wondering, are there ways where if someone gets access to your ChatGPT account, maybe it's your kids, and they start saying, "Oh yeah, can you tell me about like the dark secret that I told you?" And about, and then it like starts feeding all this. Did you mean this? And it's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably just a warning again of like making sure you have your multi-factor authentication all squared away. But that's a really good point of kind of like leaking personal information into these systems that may or may not be nefarious. It's just like I'm using Claude through VSCode, and it's like, well, okay, now I've put my information into that model. And then one of the free versions is Grok Code or something. I don't know. I think that's the one that's owned by like Elon Musk, and it's like maybe that's not what I want, where I want my data going. But it can be so nice to have like multiple references of trying to figure out how stuff works. And then one more thing I want to show on this. So here in our like window, there's like these 3 dots, and you can open a chat editor, and then you can actually like separate this screen. There's a way to separate it, and then you can actually have like a chat window plus the integrated sidebar, and you can actually have like 2 different models working on the same information at once, because each one you can like do the drop down and change the model. So that's been really nice. I'll have one on ask mode, and I'll ask it about the thing that the other one is agent writing.
I just do some kind of fun experimental. I'll ask exact same prompt, like let's brainstorm an idea, blah blah blah, into ChatGPT and include DeepSeek. And I find it very interesting is, in ChatGPT, they'll always give you, oh, that's a great idea, blah blah blah, and DeepSeek, not so much of those language.
Oh, okay. It's not as
But he will
informative.
show you, okay, I'm assigned a task to do this. He will show you the thinking process. We can do A, B, C, but no, wait, A problem, so let's try another one. And so I would just, it's so fun to see. It's like ChatGPT is so American. and like DeepSeek, Asian, Chinese. You see the Asian parents never compliment your kids, right? So I feel like there's like this cultural thing built behind it too. Funny.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be different models and different approaches. So apparently you can open like a bunch of new windows. But I feel like once I have 2 open, I'm like at my own personal capacity. So I think we're at time. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.